Hello, fifth graders, and welcome to your math lesson for the day. Before we get started, I want to remind you of some things that you should go grab. So for today, you will need your 5A textbook, your 5A workbook, your math resource binder, paper and a pencil, or you could have a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker. So go ahead and pause if you need to go gather those things, and then come on back when you're ready. So yesterday, fifth graders, you recall that we worked on standard form, expanded form, and then writing things in words. And so to warm us up for today, I'm asking you to take this number here and write it in expanded form. So pause, and then once you've had a chance to do that, come on back and see how you did. So you'll remember when we're writing in expanded form, we want to focus on the digits that are not 0. So we start with our first digit, which is 5, and then all of these digits after become 0. So you should have 8 zeros after. And then we separate our numbers with a plus sign. Our next digit is 0, so we can ignore it. We don't need to keep this in our expanded form. So now we go to our 2, which has 6 zeros after it. And remember, these commas are useful for keeping track of how many zeros. So include the zeros in your answer. We have our plus sign. Then we have a 4, followed by 5 zeros. Next comes 6, followed by, 4 zeros. And we keep separating these with our plus sign. Next comes a 1, followed by 3 zeros. A 5 with 2 zeros. Our next number is a 0, so we can skip it. And then we have our 3 at the end. So check your answer. How did you do? If you have questions or comments, you can always send me a message or come see me or Mr. Tom Have during office hours. For today, fifth graders, our objectives are going to build off of what we were working on yesterday. So remember, I said we'd get to comparing numbers. So today we're going to start off with comparing numbers, and then we're going to work on rounding numbers. Okay, so the first thing I want as we're getting into comparing numbers is to remember these terms that we use when we're comparing numbers. Okay, this symbol here means less than, this symbol means greater than, and this means equal to. So remember, if you've ever been told by a teacher that there's this idea that it wants to eat the number that's bigger, right? It's a hungry alligator and it's going to eat that number that's bigger. So when you guys are looking at comparing numbers, the first thing that you always want to do is just check how many digits are there. So I'm going to write an example. We're looking at this example here, and right, the first thing we want to do is just check how many digits there are, okay? That'll be step number 1. So in this example, we see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there are no decimals. So when we're comparing numbers, if there are not decimals, we can just say which has more digits. The number that has more digits is always going to be bigger if it's not including decimals, okay? So that's always our first step, is just count the number of digits and see if it's different, okay? Sometimes it's not going to be that simple. So we see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's not as simple in this case. So we're going to have to go place value by place value and compare. So we start at our largest. 4 and 4 are the same. 3 and 3, 2 and 2, 0 and 0, 8 and 8. And now here when we get to the ones place, we see a difference, 1 and 3, okay? 3 is greater than 1, so that means that this number is greater than. And then it's important to remember it's possible. We see these two numbers, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We compare their place values, 4, 7, 2, and these are equal to one another, okay? So go ahead, if you do not have your paper and pencil ready to go, I want you guys to go ahead and get those things ready, and we're going to jump right into doing some practice together. I have a couple of sample problems. Again, the expectation while we're doing these practice problems is for you to be working along with me. Don't just watch me solve the problems. I want you to solve those problems with me so that you're getting the practice. Also remember that the pause button is your friend. If you need more time between problems, pause, solve, and then come see what you find in the end. So our first example, remember what I said. We have no decimals here, so we always want to start by counting the number of digits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digits over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 digits over here. So in this case, we don't even have to look at what the numbers are. We have 2 whole numbers, one with 6 digits, one with 7 digits. The one with 7 digits is always going to be greater when we're talking about whole numbers. Okay, so we want to put in this less than sign because this number is less than this number. Okay. Okay, now we're going to count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, these are not decimals, so the number with 8 digits is going to be greater than the number with 7 digits. Okay, this gets a little bit trickier because now we see one in standard form and one in words. Okay, so what I'm going to recommend for this one is that we write out this number in order to compare. So 33 million, so we can write our 33, comma, 42,000, comma, 318. Okay, so now we can compare two standard form numbers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 over here. So again, the number with 9 digits is going to be greater than the number with 8 digits. Okay? And again, we have this in word form. Okay? So we want to write it out. 3 billion, which actually means that there's going to be 9 zeros after it. Okay, so we have a number that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 digits. So our number with 10 digits is always going to be greater than our number with 9, or our number with 9 digits. So fifth graders, I want you to do a little bit of independent practice on this. Specifically, I would like you to go to, in your textbook, in your workbook, page 6, and complete number 5. This is what we didn't get to in the workbook homework page yesterday. So go ahead and complete that. I want you to pause, complete, and then come back and see how you did. All right, let's check it out. So as we're comparing for part A, always start with counting your digits. This number has 10 digits. This one has 11. So we're going to say that the number with 10 digits is less than the number with 11 digits. This number has 8 digits. This one has 7. So the number with 8 is greater than the number with 7. And again, this only works with numbers that are whole numbers, not with decimals. So for this one, you should have written it out, and it would be a little bit trickier. So for writing this out, we say 40,900,022. So as we're comparing, we see, these numbers actually have the same number of digits. So now we have to start comparing place value by place value. But actually, we see a difference pretty early here, right? 5 and 4 in our greatest place value, and 5 is greater than 4. So we're going to say greater than here. And similarly for this one, we want to write it out. Remember that if we're talking billions, that is 9 zeros afterwards. So this number has 9 digits total. 1 billion has 10, so we would say that 1 billion is greater than. Okay, how'd we do? Again, if you have questions, always come on and check in during office hours. Or send me a message on Google Classroom. So as we're getting into the second part, we're going to be looking at rounding numbers. So if you are feeling uncertain about your place values, this is going to be a handy chart because it's going to tell you, for instance, that you maybe need to round to the 10,000th place. So let's remember the formula. We always say ones, tens, hundreds, and that's going to be true in here, right? We see 1,000s, 10,000s, 100,000s, 1 millions, 10 millions, 100 millions, 1 billions, 10 billions, 100 billions. So this will be a great reference for you as you're trying to figure out what place value you're rounding to. In addition, you're going to want to have these steps for rounding, which we're going to go over together right now. So these notes are going to be very helpful as you guys are working through how you're going to be rounding numbers to particular place values. So the steps for rounding. In this case, the example I have is that you're going to round 9,023,451 to the hundreds place. I want you guys to practice this routine. It is a good routine to help you work through and make sure you're doing the correct thing. So step one is to put a box around the digit in the place value to which you are rounding. So we're being asked to round to the hundreds place. So we want to put a box around the digit in the hundreds place. Now look to the number to the right of that box. If the number to the right is less than 5, we leave the box the same. 4 or less, let it rest. If the number to the right is 5 or greater, add 1 to the number in the box. 5 or more, add 1 more. So if we're looking at this number 4, we look to the right, it's a 5. 5 or more, add 1 more. So we're actually going to add 1 to this 4. So the 4 becomes a 5. Step 3 is to turn everything to the right of that box into a 0. So everything to the right of the box becomes a 0. Step 4 says that everything to the left of the box should stay the same. So our rounded answer is 9,023,000. 9,023,000. So as we are working into our textbooks and then onto our workbooks for homework, these two sheets, your place value chart and your steps for rounding, I would keep them out. They're going to be very helpful, okay? So we're going to go ahead and jump into our textbook. And you can follow along with me. We're going to be working on page 13 in our textbook on a couple of practice problems. So it's telling us for number 4 is where we're starting. Round each number to the place named. So first we want to make sure we're copying down the number, 285,043. And we're going to follow these steps. It says to round to the 10,000th place. So the first thing we want to do is put a box around the digit in the 10,000th place. Remember that you should be working with me as we go. So we're going to put a box around the digit in the 10,000th place, which happens to be an 8. Now we look to the number to the right of the box, which is a 5. 5 or more, add 1 more, which means that our rounding, we want to add 1 more to the number in the box. We're then told that everything to the right of the box becomes a 0. So our 5 becomes a 0, our 0 stays a 0, our 4 becomes a 0, and our 3 becomes a 0. And everything to the left of the box stays the same. So we should get 290,000. Let's try another one. Part B, again, our first step is to copy down the number that we're rounding. And we're being told to round to the millions place. So we want to put a box around the digit that's in the millions place, which is this 5. Now we look to the number to the right. 5 or more, add 1 more. So our 5 in the box is going to become a 6. Everything to the right of it becomes a 0. You can see there's the same number of digits afterwards. Everything to the left stays the same. Let's try part C. First, we copy down the number that we're rounding. Copy it carefully. There's a lot of digits in this one. Now we put a box around the place value that we're rounding to, the 100 millions. If you're thinking right now, you might be thinking, ooh, this is going to be a tricky one. But you can do it. So remember, now we put a box around the 100 millions and look to the number to the right. The number to the right is a 9, which is greater than 5. 5 or more, add one more. So we currently are adding one more to this 9. But what happens when we add one more to 9? It becomes a 10. So now we have a 0, and then our 5 has to turn into a 6. Another way of thinking about this is think about this number as a 59. And if you add one more to 59, it becomes 60. Okay? Everything to the right becomes a 0. And in this case, we would say everything to the left stays the same, but it had to change in order to work this out. One more than 59 is 60. Okay? Okay, number 5 is going to be using the same starting number, and we're going to be rounding to different place values. Okay, so every part of part 5 is going to be rounding this number, 4,569,325. So first we're asked to round to the tens place. So we put a box around the tens place. We look to the number to the right, 5 or more, add one more. So our 2 becomes a 3. Everything to the right becomes a 0. Everything to the left stays the same. We're going to do it again. Copy the number down. We're rounding in this case to the hundreds place. So we're going to put a box around the digit in the hundreds place. We look to the number to the right. 4 or less, let it rest. 2 is less than 4, so 3 should stay the same. Everything to the right becomes a 0. Everything to the left stays the same. Part C. Again, we're dealing with the same number, different place value. The thousands place. So we put a box around the digit in the thousands place. We look to the digit to the right. It is a 3, so 4 or less, let it rest, which means our 9 stays the same. Everything to the right becomes a 0. Everything to the left stays the same. Okay, I'm going to scoot over here. Part D. Again, we're dealing with the same starting number. Good reminder to keep working along with me. This time we're rounding to the 10,000s place. So we put a box around the 10,000s place. We look to the number to the right. 9. 5 or more, add one more. So our 6 actually is going to become a 7. Everything to the right stays the same. Remember, use these commas to make sure that you're getting the right number of digits. Everything to the right becomes a 0, and everything to the left stays the same. Okay? Got 2 more. So again, our starting number is still that same starting number. We're rounding to the 100,000s. So we put a box around the digit in the 100,000s place. We look to the right. It's a 6. 5 or more, add one more. So our 5 becomes a 6. Everything to the right becomes a 0. Everything to the left stays the same. And we've got one more. Again, we're starting with the same number, but we're rounding to the millions place. Look to the digit to the right. 5 or more, add one more. So our 4 becomes a 5. Everything to the right becomes a 0, and there is nothing to the left. So fifth graders, again, I'm going to repeat as you guys are working through your practice work and your homework. These two sheets, keep them out. If you're not sure what the place value is, check this sheet. If you're forgetting the steps for rounding, check this sheet. So attached to this assignment, there is going to be practice work. The key is also going to be included. Remember, the purpose of the key is not for you to rush in, check the answers, and then be like, oh, I got them all right because I looked at the answers, right? That's not going to help you with your learning and your growth, okay? The goal is for you to really work through all of those practice problems, and then only after you've worked through those practice problems, go and check the key. If the key tells you that you got something wrong, then you should start thinking, how did I get this wrong? Why did I get this wrong? If you can figure out on your own where your mistake was, that's great. And if not, that's also great. That's why we have office hours, and you can also send messages to me as well if you have questions, okay? Then for homework, you're going to be working in your workbook on pages 7 and 8. So this is separate from your practice work. Your homework will be pages 7 and 8 in the workbook. The expectations are that you are completing those problems and then taking pictures. Remember, for your pictures, we have our ABC of taking pictures, okay? Before you submit the pictures of your work, you want to ask yourself, is all of my work in the picture? Is it bright enough? If not, you need to turn on a light or go somewhere else in your house. Is your work close enough? Can your teacher see it? So you kind of want to think, I want to get close enough, as close as I can get my work to the camera without cutting any parts of it off. And then finally, is it still enough? When it comes time to take your picture, you want to make sure you're holding that as still as possible. Fifth graders, good luck. Again, if you've got questions, let me know, and I'll be looking forward to seeing your work.